In this video, I will talk about the 50 to 200mm f2.8 to 3.5 zoom lens. Hi there, my name is Peter Forsgaard and I am a professional photographer from Helsinki, Finland. And let's get right into the business. This is a 4/3 lens and this is the original from 2003. So it's not the SVD lens, which has a bit different focusing mechanism. It's a bit faster in autofocus. But I will talk about the autofocus performance on a micro 4/3 body on this video later on. But let's first start with the look and feel. As you can see, the lens is quite big and heavy. And that's the biggest downside, I think, on that lens. And some other things which I will talk a bit later. It's a big and bulky. But why did I get the lens? Because it's a big and bulky lens and it needs an adapter, which I will also talk a bit later on this video. Well, the biggest reason was that I got it with a fairly reasonable price, and I've never tested 4/3 lenses on micro 4/3 bodies before. So I wanted to test it, and I've also heard that the lens is really good. And as you can see, the design is a bit old-fashioned. It's from the 2000 early, and the modern lenses are a lot better looking, and I don't really think that what the lens looks like is the biggest thing. But of course, if your camera looks good, it's nicer than when it's not looking that good. But the most important thing, of course, is how it performs. How do you feel when you using the lens? And with that, I don't have any problems with it. It was pleasure to use, even though it is quite heavy compared to the modern lenses. And with a smaller Olympus bodies, this is too big for those. And then let's talk about the specifications. As you saw from the specs, there is no image stabilizer in the lens. And usually when you have a telephoto lens, it is better to have the image stabilizer in the lens rather than only in the body. But I was able to get around 1/15 of a second shutter speeds with this and the newest EM1 Mark III. The IBIS worked very well with the lens. And what's good about this lens is that it has, of course, the electronic connections, and it will transfer the information to the body. Of course, you need to have the adapter, which I will, as I said, talk a bit later. And then it has the variable aperture. So on 50mm, it's 2.8, and at 200mm, it is 3.5. That's not a big deal when we talk about photography. But of course, if you need to use this in video and need to change the focal length during filming, then of course it will get a bit darker, and it's not that convenient for video shooting. But I don't think this is meant for video shooting anyways, and I don't think you would get this for video shooting. You would get this for photography, and then the variable or the changing aperture value doesn't really matter. It's all the way up to 51mm, the 2.8, but then at 92mm it's f2.9, and then at 158 it will be 3.3. Here is the whole aperture values for every focal length, or when the aperture changes to the next aperture value. And then let's talk about the autofocus speed. That's of course the biggest concern when getting a lens with an adapter. The AF works, and it is a lot slower than with the modern lenses. But I found that it is totally suitable to use. So it's not that slow that it is hard to use. But there's one important thing. You need to have face detection AF on your body. If you only have contrast detect or contrast AF, then this will be almost unusable. I wouldn't use it for that because it is so slow, and it kind of like goes like really hard stops, and when it tries to find, it goes back and forth and then it nails it. If you have to shoot, for example, portraits and have a smaller or older OMD body, then yeah, you might get along with that, but I wouldn't recommend this lens if you don't have a Olympus body with face detect AF. with that, I found it to be reasonably good. As I said, I use it on the M1 Mark III mostly. I tested with the M1 also, and it was okay. It is a bit better with the newer bodies because they have a bit better and more sensors for the face detect, as I've learned when I was investigating, or not investigating, but looking for info about this lens, because as I said, this is a very old lens. And that's the main thing. And let me check, is there any other? No, I think, yeah, that was about the AF speed. But you will see from these images that it is suitable for bird photography. But as you saw from the images that there weren't too many flying birds, because for that it is a bit too slow. You can use very well for images like I had or showed you. It's no problem. There was a slight problem with the AF when if there was a really dark bird, it had harder time to nail the focus. And yes, I did miss more images than I would have if I had, let's say, the 40 to 150 millimeter 2.8 Pro Zoom lens, which is a dedicated Micro Four Thirds lens. I would have gotten a better percentage of keepers. I was really happy about the image quality on this lens, which is our next topic. There's really nothing wrong with the image quality, and it's almost as good as the 40 to 150 millimeter 2.8 Pro Zoom lens. And if we think about the price of this lens, this combination with the adapter and the lens, it was around 500 euros, which is not that much for this good lens if we talk about the image quality. And I think that's one of the reasons that you might want to consider is the price. It's a very good value for the money. And what I also found out that the sharpest the lens is at 70 millimeters. That's kind of like the sweet spot. The differences are not that big, but always it is a bit better. At least this lens is a bit better when you have the wider field of view from 50 to 70 to let's say 150. But of course, if you go to 200 millimeters, which is equivalent of 400 millimeter field of view, if we talk in full frame terms, then you get a slight decrease on image quality. But as you saw from the images, I don't think that's a big of a problem. And this lens also is capable of having the EC14 and EC20 teleconverters. The EC14 is 1.4 and the EC20 is, of course, 2-time teleconverter. I don't have those, but they are compatible with those. So if you already have those or can get a hold of those, then that lens is compatible with those. And that's a good thing. I tried to use the MC14 on this adapter, but because there is some room here, as you can see, but I couldn't really fit it. I didn't want to force it either because this one is plastic, and I was a bit afraid that if I will force it in, it will break the not the extender, but the adapter. And talking about the adapters, this one is the MMF3. There are two other ones, the MMF1 and MMF2. And the biggest difference in MMF2 and MMF3 is that this one, MMF3, has some weather sealing. There is a small rubber band here around, so that it is tighter, and this says splash proof on the adapter. So the combination, if you have the MMF3 adapter and this lens and a weather sealed body, you are pretty well set for a bit worse weather than with the MMF2. So if you're getting these 4/3 lenses and do not have the adapter, get the MMF3 instead if you can find it. The only downside is that I think it was a bit expensive. It was 170 euros for the adapter, and I think it's a bit too much. It was, quite inexpensive lens, but when you add the adapter, then it was around the 500, which was not too bad for what it is. As I said already, that if you have a newer Olympus body with phase detect and contrast AF, then the old 4/3 lenses are okay. And why not, if you can get them with a reasonable price used, then why not get them if you're looking into a new lenses? Because as I said, I'm really happy about the image quality on this. And if you don't really need fast AF, then why not consider getting one of those if you're in a market for a new lens? Who is it for? Well, I've already said a few things about the price. It's a good budget option for micro 4/3 lenses, these 4/3 lenses with the adapter. And of course, you have to buy only one adapter. You can use this, of course, with all of your 4/3 lenses. And it's a budget option, and as you saw from the images, and if you're starting using a long telephoto lens, this might be an option just to see if that's something for you. So you don't have to invest thousands of dollars on a new lens. You can get it for a few hundred euros or dollars, and that's one good thing about these old lenses. And you don't have to lose any image quality, because it is really good. And I'm really happy about the quality and the image quality on the lens. So I don't think it's a big of a problem. What do you think about the 4/3 lenses? Have you used them, and what is your experience on these lenses? And do you happen to have this, or do you even have the newer version, which actually I did not mention before, that it is the newer version has a bit faster AF, so it's even better if you can get the newer one. I would just wanted to have the original one just to see how good it is. So please let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on 4/3 lenses, and what do you have and what do you have used? Because there are some really, really interesting lenses from 4/3. And then the conclusion. Well, as I said, I'm really happy that I got, and it's a very good value for money, even though the downside on this is that it's quite big and the AF isn't as fast as the dedicated micro 4/3 lenses. And then of course you need an adapter to attach it to your micro 4/3 body. But I didn't see that so big of a problem. I think it worked really, really well. And if you, as I said, if you have the MMF3, you are kind of like weather sealed too. So I might be looking for some other 4/3 lenses, because there are some interesting lenses available and a bit different options. And if you look at the newest lens roadmap, there might be coming a 50 to 200 millimeter zoom lens in the Pro lineup for micro 4/3, and that would be really interesting, because I found the focal length from 50 to 200, which is 100 to 400 equivalent field of view if you compare it to full frame, and I think it's a pretty good focal length for many things if you need a longer telephoto lens. And here are some more videos for you to watch. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.